welcome back. For those of you who are not amongst the large proportion of my audience that watch my videos with their eyes shut, okay, maybe it's a smaller proportion of my audience, I don't know. I'm sure somebody said that it was a good video to go to sleep to at some point. Will have noticed that that was not the smoothest takeoff I have ever made. I am not quite sure what happened, but my best guess is that I had my joystick's feet on the left arrow key, since that's the only thing I can think of that would cause a joystick to start pulling left and then stop. Normally if a joystick pulls left it's because it's miscalibrated, but in that instance it wouldn't stop just because I asked it nicely. Anyway, the objective of this particular mission is to destroy the planet you saw in front of me in the autopilot scene. That's Hyperion 2 with the Tembler Bomb. I may discuss the probabilities of destroying a planet with the Tembler Bomb slightly later. It's about as plausible as most planet destruction methods in science fiction. But before I can do that, in any case, we need to get through this wave of Drouthy. They are essentially like any other wave of Drouthy, this meaning that you try to destroy some of the fighters before they start throwing missiles at you. I only managed to get one, so I had to dodge quite a lot of missiles. But once you've got through that, they don't really present a challenge. I was slightly surprised about how easy this mission turned out to be, to the extent that I actually checked to see that I was still playing on Nightmare, rather than having slipped down to the default difficulty of Ace, because it did seem very straightforward. Helped by things like that, I'm still not quite sure what happened to that Drouthy, because what seems to happen is that I fire a few shots at it, it drops down to red hull energy on that wing, and then I turn away to dodge a missile, and by the time I've turned back it's exploded. Now I guess I may have fired a last shot at it that just tagged it, but I don't think so, because in the kill ball after the mission end I only have 13 kills for this mission and there's 14 enemies, and obviously there's nobody else to kill anything. So I think it exploded by some non-me related means, but there didn't seem to be anything around for a collision. So the only other thing I can think of is that it was destroyed by one of the Clarathi's own missiles, but that's weird as well, because the only missiles that are supposed to be able to do that are friend or foe missiles, and as far as I was aware, Drouthy only fire index. So it shall forever remain a mystery, or something. Down to the ground now, which looks suspiciously like every other planet we've visited, in a manner that is probably not surprising anymore. Although it might be if you can't remember previous ground missions, but they did all look a bit like this. We're only fighting 2 Akapshi, so the fact that I forgot it being my first time playing Wing Commander 3, and I do mean literally my first time, this was the first attempt and it went sufficiently well that I didn't see the need to record another one, and besides I thought that you might find it somewhat entertaining to see what I forget to do in my first time playing Wing Commander 3 for several months. As I said, it didn't really matter that I forgot to select more guns, because with only 2 Akapshi I wasn't ever really in any danger anyway. The fact that there were any Akapshi here at all is a bit interesting. We were told that this planet was uninhabited, and Akapshi are short-range atmospheric fighters that could not have got here from another planet. Accordingly, therefore, this planet is not uninhabited. The fact that Colonel Blair decides to ignore this fact and continue with the Tembler Bomb test regardless strikes me as a little strange. I don't think it would be what most people would do when they discover a planet that they were informed was uninhabited and they are about to blow up turns out to actually be inhabited. Now, you can argue that it doesn't really make much difference morally. I mean, we're intending to attack Kilrar with this thing, and we were quite happy to blow up Kilrar with Behemoth, and that will involve the deaths of a far greater number of Clarathi civilians than could possibly be the case here at Hyperion. nonetheless, it does still strike me as a little strange. It's actually plausible enough in story terms, in the sense that we've already heard from Vagabond that the Confederation has passed form in labelling targets as uninhabited or otherwise not being subject to collateral damage. And that Dr. Severin, the inventor of the Temple Bomb in particular, has previous with testing his weapons on inhabited worlds and not caring about the collateral damage. And previously on Pack 7, where, according to Vagabond, millions of people died in what the Confederation classed as an accident that actually wasn't. And just like the Kilrathi here on Hyperion, the Paxons were not Confederation citizens as far as I can tell. Vagabond calls them primitives, so they may either be a backwards human colony, Star Trek has them, so presumably they can exist in other science fiction, or maybe they are non-human sentients, of which there are far more in the background in Wing Commander than ever get screen time. Either way, the Confederation was happy to destroy them, and it seems to be equally amoral here. And so I'm fine with the basic idea that, you know, this planet is uninhabited, air quotes, and then we blow it up. But what I'm not fine with is the idea that Blair just goes along with this. It doesn't seem part of Blair's character to do that. There should be some kind of radio communication with Victory where he questions the test and is ordered to proceed with it or something like that, just to reiterate the character of it. Rollins is even going to remark in the debrief about so much for the planet being empty. Well, doesn't it matter that the planet wasn't empty given that we've just blown it up? Anyway, you see me aim and fire the Templar bomb there, and primarily what you'll have noticed from that is that it takes forever to lock on. One thing I do wonder though is if it wasn't supposed to be a bit different to that originally. Eisen says in the briefing that our timing and our aim have to be perfect. Well, as you can see, our timing and our aim don't come into the matter because our targeting computer does it all for us. But it would explain to some extent why this mission was so easy if it was originally supposed to be a tutorial on aiming and firing the Templar bomb. And then, like much of the rest of the ground sequence, Origin decided that it was not worth the development effort to turn this into what the designers really envisaged, or that was particularly playable. I mean, it could have been an extremely annoying minigame at some point in development, and they decided to cut it. In whatever case, what we ended up with was a sequence that doesn't make much sense. Much like Eisen's comment about flying in a nebula. I mean, it could be that Eisen has never been a pilot and doesn't really know much of anything about this, but they're still strange comments. Anyway, we are well clear of our destroyed planet now. You have noted that it has expanded into an asteroid field. I don't think it's quite as bad as some versions of destroyed planets in science fiction, because I'm pretty certain that that planet will recondense itself into a planet and is not actually therefore permanently destroyed, but rather temporarily inconvenienced. But this is sufficient for the Confederation's purposes, in as much as anything that was on it is now not. Our final set of Drowpy are identical to the first set and are met in pretty much the same way, excepting the fact that I'm still a bit in privateer mode here and I'm trying to chase the Drowpy around and afterburn it. You can do this in an Excalibur, and as you can see it approximately works, but it's not the smart approach because the way the Excalibur auto-tracking guns work, basically you're almost guaranteed to miss if you fire just to kill after you're about to dodge, and light fighters like Largets and Drowpy dodge almost all the time. So you're much better off doing what I have traditionally done in an Excalibur, which is flying away from an opponent and coming around for multiple head-to-heads, because they won't be dodging your fire when they are aiming at you, because they're aiming at you. Whereas with the Excalibur's auto-tracking guns, you can still fly at an angle to them and dodge around and evade their fire. So you still have the same ratio of incoming fire to outgoing fire, but you're far more likely to hit with yours, which means that enemies tend to die rather faster, as I belatedly realise here. and admittedly then lose most of my rear armour because I hadn't noticed what the other two Drowthy were doing. Still, that's a trade that's basically worth it at this point in the mission. These guys are the last two enemies, and there's no way I'm going to have a problem with them. So, you know, worth it just to speed things up, really. Rachel may not agree with that, but, well, she's already got enough problems with me that a few more won't matter too much. This is about the only time what I have just done ever works for me, in that I send a missile at one fighter and then deal with the other one while the first fighter is dodging the missile. In theory it's a tactic that ought to work really well, though I did just shoot down my own missile with gunfire, something that I could probably not manage if I tried, but which seemed to work just fine by accident. In any case, it served its purpose as a distraction. And that is us done with the mission, so thanks for watching. I've been Alanin, this has been Wing Commander 3, Heart of the Tiger.
Damn, Colonel, so much for HQ's intelligence report on this place being empty. But I do know they're gonna call you the Planet Slayer from now on. You're cleared to land.
I like how Rollins just tosses the intel report behind him, which is approximately where Eisen usually stands. Anyway, that concludes this mission, so join me next time when we'll be back in space for the entire time, so you don't have to look at strange pointy grey things.
Good job, Colonel.
Thank you, sir.
Great mission.
Thanks.
Way to go, sir. Outstanding.